friends, at this time we're going to have a Q&A session. I will be happy to address any spiritual inquiry from any one of you. Thank you.
Hi, Tarek. Thank you so much for coming today. My question is in the history of religions and different spiritual traditions, there don't seem to be too many women who are the ones that are giving the teachings. It seems to be overwhelming men. I was hoping that you could help me understand why that is if we all have the same soul. Thank you.
Thank you. The human soul has no gender. As a matter of fact, I asked the question similar to yours to Ishwar Puri Ji while he was still in the physical world. The human soul has no gender in any way, shape, fashion, or form. But because we are living in the physical world and a man is generally considered stronger physically, I did not say mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. Because man is stronger than a woman physically, that's why most of the perfect living masters throughout world history are men and not women. We did have some women who were perfect living masters. And again, I must emphasize that the soul has absolutely no gender. The same number of physical suns, SUNS, that a man has, the woman has. It's an equal number. Although certain traditions have argued that man has 12 physical suns in his soul, while the woman has only 4 physical suns in her soul. According to Sant Mat philosophy, the number of physical sun in each of the man's soul and the woman's soul is equivalent. Again, these were certain traditions arguing that. Ishwarji did not want to either confirm nor deny that at that time. But again, I must emphasize that the human soul, regardless of the gender, carries the same number of physical suns, SUNS, and both men and women have the equal opportunity to reach Sachkhand. Man does not reach Sachkhand faster than a woman or vice versa. No. We each of us picked up a DVD from the Akashic records in Trikuti in order for us to embark into what I call the greatest adventure of existence. In Sachkhand, there is no gender. Hans and Bans are having eternal bliss, infinite love, and everlasting peace. But to come to the three lower worlds, that is the physical world, the astral world, and the causal world, you need a gender. So when we reached Trikuti, which is the highest region of the causal world, we consciously picked up a DVD record, DVD, digital video disc, so that we will be able to come to this world. We cannot have gender. We cannot come to this world unless we determine what is our gender. Similarly, we cannot come to the lower worlds, the three lower worlds, unless we have karma. So this DVD that we picked up from the Akashic records had our karma, and we looked at the index of this DVD. We knew exactly what would happen to us, and we had the absolute guarantee and the eternal assurance from Sat Purush, the absolute supreme being, that, hey, I will come to get you through a human form, through a perfect living master, when you had enough of this pain, suffering, and misery in the physical world. Sister, did this answer your question?
Partially, I'm just wondering what physical strength would have to do with putting someone in that role of being a PLM.
So we are in the physical world. We call Pinda the physical world. And in general, man is considered stronger physically than a woman. And because he is normally the head of the household, the breadwinner, right? He was tasked to do this role. Now, again, I'm talking as a rule of thumb, but there are exceptions. And like I told you, most of the perfect living masters are men. But it doesn't mean there were no female perfect living masters that we have not heard of. Because the woman, especially in Eastern traditions, are normally tasked to take care of the family, to take care of their household, to take care of the children. Man was tasked to make sure he has an honest living to sustain his life, and also it was more convenient. Let's say it's more convenient for a man to take this role assigned to him by his or her, by his perfect living master, just because of the nature of the physical world, especially in Eastern traditions. And by Eastern traditions, I mean the Near East, the Middle East, the Persian Gulf, and Southeast Asia, to include India and Pakistan.
Thank you. Okay, lots of follow-up questions to that. Thank you, by the way. That was an awesome question. And we do live in a very patriarchal society still, although, in the West, we've had lots of progress. And I know of some female perfect living masters even come to the East, like Rabia al-Basri, very famous amongst Sufis. But my question is, who is determining who becomes a perfect living master in terms of gender? Is it Satpurush that says, well, this man
say two disciples of a perfect living master, a man and a woman, both have reached Sachkham. And Satguru decides, well, they're all one, but so to speak, Satguru decides, well, the man will become the perfect living master because this is a physical world. This is a patriarchal society. People are going to listen to a man because he has more authority and he has the means to deliver a discourse and he's physically stronger. I don't know what that has to do with PLMs. So is that how it works, or?
Not necessarily, sister. It is up to the perfect living master. He or she is the one to determine who is going to be the successor. And by the way, this is done not on in the physical world. This is done in the astral world, whereby the master will communicate with a devout disciple, regardless of their gender, and the perfect living master will ask this particular person to carry the torch.
Okay, so how do you think it's changed now? Because obviously Western society is different, right? Will things change? Is it really based on society? Or is there something else to it that maybe we don't know?
Yes, we are now in the Western society, and the great master mentioned to Ishwarji that the axis of spirituality is going to gently shift from the east to the west. So things could be different. We just have to wait and see. Again, sister, this is a very sensitive topic amongst some people who call for gender equality. After all, like I mentioned, the soul has the same number of physical sun, regardless whether it is in a man or in a woman, period. That is unquestionable. Now, why would a perfect living master normally is a man rather than a woman? Like you said, there are exceptions to the rule. Rabi'a al-Adawiyya from Basra, Iraq, she was a perfect living master. Now, whether she was a Sad Guru or a Sat Guru, that is a question of debate. But nevertheless, she was a perfect living master, and I got the confirmation from Ishwarji himself. There are exceptions to the rule in Eastern traditions. Now, whether these exceptions to the rules in the Eastern traditions are going to be the same here, or maybe here in the Western society, we may have more female perfect living masters. I am not authorized by Ishwarji to say how it's going to change. But all I can tell you, sister, is let us wait and see how it's going to unfold.
Okay, I understand that. And I appreciate that you said that, men and women both had equal suns representing their souls or whatever, right? I understand that. The thing that like I kind of question is how much of this is truly based on the physical world and how much of it is based on the spiritual side of things, right? Like for example, like just the fact that almost all perfect living masters that we know, if not all, are men, that raises a question mark. How come? If women are equally capable and the path is of love, of devotion, we don't need a strong physical body for that, just need a voice. Then, what is the real thing?
There may be some female perfect living masters who do not necessarily give open discourses. Again, there may be some female perfect living masters of the highest order spiritually initiating disciples, but for a certain reason we may have not heard of them.
Why not?
It has to do with the environment. Again, Eastern traditions are normally more conservative than Western traditions. But again, things may be different right now in the Western world. We just have to wait and see. I can neither confirm that nor deny that. We just have to wait.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I'm grilling you, but this is obviously a sensitive topic. And a lot of women who will be listening to this can relate. And I appreciate this question from Maddie. And it is important. And is this kind of inequality, is it in all levels of consciousness? This inequality between the male and the female. Like, for example, there are rulers of the astral, of the cosmic worlds. Are they also male?
Very good question, sister. No. This so-called, let's call it inequality between quotations. Some people say, no, it's not. Some people argue, oh, it's a man's world. Some people say, no, it's not a man's world. It's a man's and a woman's world as well. So, but no, it's only in this physical world, sister. As you go into the astral, causal, and even trichoty, this so-called inequality dissipates.
Okay, so then why is God a he then? And why is he never a she? And how come Satpurush is also male and not a
Who said the Satpurush is male?
This always refers to Satpurush as a he, as
No.
a male.
We say he just for the convenience of saying he. We can say she, we can say it.
But we don't.
True.
And is it because of the society, or is there a deeper truth to it?
Sister, remember, in such Kant, there is no gender. But we have a habit to say he, but we can say she for Satpurush, or let's make it easy. Let's just say it. IT. Let's just say it. Satpurush has absolutely no gender. Again, Hans and Bans are living in eternal bliss, infinite love, and absolute peace, and they have no genders. The gender starts when the soul descends to Trikuti, the highest region of the causal world, to pick up a DVD. From there, gender starts. Not before, sister.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I know I've been hogging you. This one last question, Isar. Have we always lived in a patriarchal society, or have we also lived in a matriarchy, or in a world where there is actual genuine gender equality?
Are you talking about the physical world?
Yes.
Most of the times we lived in a patriarchal society. Most. But there were some eras whereby it was not that way. Okay. That's all I can say.
Okay. All right. Well, not very happy with certain things, but that's cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, beloved. I've always been fascinated with the descent of the soul, or the journey of the soul, as to what's its purpose, what's its function. And it appears that self and God realization seems to be the chief aim of this process. And so it's always caused questions like, well, if I was already self and God realized, why would I come down to be self and God realized? And so it's just been coming to me intuitively. I haven't really read any discourses, and you could speak on this perhaps. Did the soul exist in unconscious? What was the undevelopmental? How do I say this? Does the soul need to? What is it that the soul needed in order to come down and to experience the lower worlds? and to attain self and God realization. Because like a baby, for example, it's awareness, but it's not self-aware. So I'm wondering, is there this unconscious, unself-aware part of us that needed to come down to develop in order to complete the soul? Is it part of like an alchemical process for the soul's development to attain self and God realization? Is that possible?
Thank you, brother. I asked Ishwarji once, why would the soul leave such kand where we have eternal bliss, infinite love, and absolute peace? Why would it leave and experience the three lower worlds, especially the pain, suffering, and misery of the physical world? And Ishwarji's answer was simple. He gave me an illustration. He told me, Tariq, if, say for example, there is a kingdom, very wealthy kingdom, and the king and the queen are living a wonderful, luxurious, top-notch life. And then they have a baby, and say, for example, the baby is a son. Again, here, I'm not trying to be whether it's a son or a, but that's the example that Ishwarji used. He said it was a son, not a daughter. But again, I'm trying here to be very careful what I say, because we do have here several women in this audience. But so anyway, this son was born in the beautiful palace in the center of this very wealthy kingdom, and he has grown, and he has so many servants bringing him the food, bathing him, teaching him. He has a spiritual mentor. He has a medical hakim who is a health doctor at that time. He has everything there. Now, he doesn't appreciate the fact that he's living in a luxurious palace and a wealthy kingdom. Now, one day, this son, and now he has grown up, he became a prince, decided he wants to leave the kingdom, just wanted to peek what's outside the kingdom. So he disguised himself. He didn't wear all these fancy clothes. He wears very simple clothes, and he decided to leave the kingdom. And when he left the kingdom, brother, he was shocked when he saw people living in pain, in poverty, in stress, in tension, and in misery. He was shocked. He said, really? This existence is there? I thought the whole world is in my palace, it is in the kingdom, let alone in my palace. So he was shocked to see that. Then when he returned, after he spent several weeks communicating and interacting with these people outside the kingdom, he decided to return back to his kingdom. And of course, he has given the password to the guards of the main gate so that they know who he is. They let him in, and then he went back to the palace. Brother, the fact that this prince had the audacity to leave the kingdom and his palace to explore other realms of existence made him more grateful and more appreciative of what he has. So, brother, the main reason what the main reasons why some of us leave such Khan to embark into the greatest adventure of existence is to cultivate humility, gratitude, and appreciation. These three qualities are extremely important for the spiritual path. So when this prince returned back to the kingdom and to the palace, he has undergone a very radical change in his psyche, whereby he started cultivating humility, gratitude, and appreciation. And in this regard, Ishwarji, in many of his spiritual discourses, mentioned to us that Hans and Buns, Hans are the ones who decide to have this exploration of the physical world and then return back to Sachkhand. Buns are the ones who are happy and they say, no, we'll pass Satpurush. We don't want to go to the lower worlds. So when the Hans returned back to Sachkhand, and here Ishwarji has given an illustration. He said both of them are singing and dancing. Singing and dancing 24 by 7 by 365. But the Hans are dancing and singing in more capacity than the Buns. So that the Buns look at the Hans and say, what's so special? Why are you dancing and singing in a more vivacious, in a more powerful manner than us? So then the Hans tell the Buns, you have no idea. That's it. So, brother, I'm sorry I gave you a very lengthy answer, but I have passed on to you what Ishwarji told me. The soul, consciousness is always here and now. I wouldn't say that a soul is unconscious. There is nothing like that, brother. But the soul decided to embark into the greatest adventure of all existence, but they have gotten first the absolute guarantee and the eternal promise from Satpurush that when we are fed up of the illusions of the physical world, Satpurush itself will come in a human form and he or she will spiritually initiate that soul so that this soul will start its journey back to the source, to the true home, to Sachkhand. Brother, did I answer your question?
You definitely did, more so than I can even express. I just, and when you consider that Anami is we are that expression of Anami coming down into, so this is Anami's journey as well through us, correct?
You could say that, brother.
So in a developmental sense, would it be safe to say that the soul is going through a developmental process by attaining the qualities of gratitude, compassion, and things that wouldn't exist in perfect oneness, but would only exist in a world of duality and pain and suffering?
You said it right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for this excellent question.
So Tarek, I was recently listening to one of Bishwar's discourses, and he mentioned that you cannot love somebody that you've never met. And so I was just wondering how Salan Sengji was able to initiate people using it representative because they had never actually met him.
You mean a representative like a physical person to spiritually initiate other seekers on behalf of the great master?
Correct.
Thank you, sister. When a perfect living master initiates a disciple, he or she will plant itself into the soul of the disciple. And when the perfect living master gives authorization to a disciple to spiritually initiate on his or her behalf,
Very funny you wrote that.
they can do that. Because remember, sister, our perfect living master has already ingrained itself into our soul at the time of spiritual initiation. At the time of spiritual initiation, the perfect living master has already put itself into the soul of that disciple. And when the disciple attains spiritual realization, he or she will realize that their perfect living master was no one but their true self with a capital S. So therefore, back to your question, when a perfect living master gives authority to a representative to spiritually initiate on his or her behalf, they can do so because that disciple, since the perfect living master has ingrained itself into the soul of that person, and that person has gotten the blessings and the authority from his or her perfect living master to spiritually initiate, they can go ahead and do that. Then I answer your question, sister.
Yes, but then I was also wondering, then when that person who was initiated to a representative medicates, do they picture the representative?
Excellent question. The answer is no. That disciple who got the spiritual initiation from a representative of a perfect living master, when they practice contemplation, they should contemplate the radiant form of the perfect living master and not the representative. And the representative will tell that. The representative at the time of spiritual initiation will tell the seekers who are about to become initiates that when you practice, as you know, sister, meditation of the light and sound of Surat Shabd Yoga, or in the Sant Matsi philosophy, comes into three parts. There is Simran, mental repetition of the 5 holy names given to us by the perfect living master or the representative in this example. There is Bhajan, which is trying to listen to the sound current that reverberates into each and every human being. And there is the contemplation, also known as Dhyan, contemplation of the radiant form of the master. They should contemplate of the radiant form of the perfect living master and not the representative.
So if they had never seen him, though, how will they know what to picture?
The perfect living masters function in very mysterious ways sometimes very mischievous ways, and the mind, the human mind, can absolutely not fathom the modus operandi of the perfect living master. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much. You mentioned that Master has opened the door. The door is wide open to step through, but the mind is in the way, right? And I feel that internally, and it's just the only way I can explain it is by becoming a little bit more personal. My mind has a very strong sense of bravado and entitlement, and wants to take ownership and credit for everything good that happens in my life. I did that. I made money. I did the split days. Well, yeah, Master's helping me, but I'm doing ABCD. And wait, how come Master is not giving me less? I deserve this. Master has the power. Why doesn't he change my circumstance? I deserve it, right? So my mind plays all of these games. And I know, obviously, every single thing that I have, including my breath, including my heartbeat, including this false sense of self, is all Master anyways. Master has given me more than I could have ever imagined. I was not even supposed to be alive right now. This is how much he has saved my life so many times. And more than that, my karma, such a heavy karma, he has burned my sinship karma, first of all, and then also has made the karma of this life lighter than, way lighter than I deserve. I know that. So I guess my question is I feel internally that the door is wide open, but my mind's ego, that that false identity, the arrogance, it's really preventing me from my soul, from getting what my soul wants, right? And it doesn't make any sense. When I really during the meditation, I was like, it doesn't make sense for me to even ask Master for ABCD thing, because he's taking care of me in all aspects, and he obviously knows more than I could ever know. So I'm just not sure, and I had to ask this in a more efficient way, in a personal way, because that's really what's going on, is how do I overcome this? How do I, like you said, be humble, be grateful, be appreciative? And I feel like the mind is really preventing me from those things.
Thank you, sister. The fact that you have acknowledged that the ego, which is probably the greatest obstacle to cross or to transcend before we are able to merge with our beloved, the fact that you have acknowledged that the ego is in the way, this is a very good thing. Well begun is half done. It is not easy. I did this. I did that. I created this website. I founded this organization. I have accumulated so much wealth in this world. I is always there between our soul and between our beloved. It's not easy. So, how can you transcend the ego? How can you cultivate humility, gratitude, and appreciation? You are doing the right thing in the right place at exactly the right time. Meditate regularly, even when the mind resists. When you meditate, try to meditate with love and devotion. It will be much more effective than a mechanical meditation. Try to remember your beloved outside meditation, during your daily activities, while you are inside the house or outside the house, whatever you are doing. Try to remember the Lord, your beloved, outside meditation. While you are driving, if you don't want to meditate or practice Simran, that's fine. But at least one single moment that you feel love toward your beloved can equal a meditation for a lifetime. So, eventually, sister, the ego is going to slowly but surely get weakened by the overflowing love and grace of your perfect living master. And then the ego eventually will no longer be an obstacle. The mind, instead of being your greatest enemy, will become your greatest friend.
Thank you so much. And two things added to that is well, my mind just went blank. Stare effect. But you have tasty psychic. You were mentioning, the perfect living master in your in your spiritual discourse. You were mentioning that he's come with compassion, with love to serve, in service. And I thought to myself in that moment, why am I not feeling or thinking that way, that my existence here is in service of Master, not self-gratification or service to my ego or service to my mind, to my, XYZ goals in my life, but actually dedicating mind, body, soul to the Master in service of the Master.
Beautiful, sister. That is the greatest seva ever. And speaking of seva, if you recall, I think last year or 2 years ago, I had a spiritual discourse in the greater medicine area about seva. And I explained that seva can be seva of the mind, seva of the soul, seva of the body, and seva of wealth. And you are absolutely correct, sister. Dedicate your life, consider your life as a seva to the beloved. And one more thing, if you have any worries, if you have any pains, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual pains, give them to your beloved, give them to your master genuinely. You sit down before meditation and tell him, Master, I want to give you all my worries. I want to give you all my pains. Take them away for good. He will take them from you instantly. But you have to do it genuinely, from the deepest core of your being.
Thank you. And I have tried that. I think it's my ego and my mind not wanting to give because it wants to maintain control. Because as soon as I give that, then I releasing control to the master, or the illusion of control. And I remembered the other thing that I was saying before was that I feel, on the spiritual path, they say it's a path of warriors. It's a path for warriors, right? And I never really understood that before. And I thought, well, it's all love. And, I was initiated by Ishtarji. It's all going to be amazing from here on out. But the mind is fighting fiercely, right? And you've talked about that so many times. And I feel like maybe, Master has been blocking, or not blocking, but not allowing or helping my mind get what it wants, because he knows once I get that, then the ego and the pride and the obstacle is going to become stronger and stronger. So is that like, do masters do that, where they kind of create a little bit of friction
Absolutely, sister.
in the mind.
Perfect living masters function in very mysterious ways in this physical world. The human mind can never fathom their modus operandi. The master can certainly do that, sister. But please remember, the perfect living master knows exactly what is good for you. So, what is he's going to do for you, what he or she is going to do for you, may not necessarily be the same as he or she will do to the brother here sitting on your left, and vice versa. Please remember, dear friends, that the spiritual path is very personal and highly customized. So the perfect living master may do something for a person which could be extremely different than another disciple. Both are disciples of the same perfect living master. Yet, X may be told by his or her PLM something different than Y, even though that X and Y are friends and they both got initiated at the same time by the same PLM. We have to remember that the spiritual path, even though we conduct spiritual events, which is really good, because as I mentioned before, there are three ways for our spiritual progress. There is meditation, there is seva, and there is satsang. So, even though we are coming today on this very special day, on Thursday, April 2nd, 2026, yet what matters is that your perfect living master may give you something that may not necessarily be the same as our brother here or as the sister on your immediate left. Why? Plain and simple. The spiritual path in Santmat philosophy is extremely personal and highly customized. The perfect living master at the time of your spiritual initiation knows exactly what is good for your spiritual progress. And right now you mentioned that the ego is really fighting. The ego does not want you to walk through the door that the Satguru has opened wide for you.
Yes, ego, he, and not just say, ah. But sorry, just one more thing is that, you know what doesn't help is how humble masters are, right? And that like perfect holy master is so humble that like, okay, even if I do something good, the idea, I know it came from master, but the mind will try to take ownership. So the idea came from master, the execution, the resources, the energy, the mental health, whatever. I know it all came from master. And yet the mind tries to, but I did it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Eh.
After all, sister, when you reach such Khan, you're going to realize that your perfect living master was no one but your higher self. So when you say, I did this, I is correct, but it's not the I of the mind. It is the I of the self with a capital S.
That's true. And I think right now my mind is trying to pretend, and it knows. It knows it's all master internally and externally, but it's still trying to claim some sort of ownership.
Absolutely. And remember, sister, the mind is fighting you constantly. The mind does not want you to walk through the door that your Satguru opened wide for you. Kal does not like it when a human soul gets spiritually initiated in the physical world. Kal doesn't like that at all. Kal wants all the human soul to be under its command and control. I did say his or her.
Say his for quality.
It's command and control. You're welcome. Friends, this concludes the Q&A sessions. I would like to personally thank each one of you for coming today and joining me on this extremely auspicious occasion. The spiritual event is not yet over for today. Following Q&A session, we are going to have prashad distribution. Prashad is a divine gift. It is simply to remember our beloved, our perfect living master. The candy is not going to change the molecular structure of it. No, it's just a token for us to remember our beloved. And as I mentioned in my spiritual discourse, ask yourself quietly, who are you beyond your roles, your titles, and your circumstances? The perfect living master loves us unconditionally. And he or she promised us at the time of our spiritual initiation that they are going to be with us forever. Even when our physical body dies in this physical world, we are going to meet our perfect living master. And together, we are going to continue our spiritual journey all the way back to the source, our true home, Sachkhand. Following Prashad, we are going to have personal meetings. Any one of you, dear friends, who would like to meet with me personally is more welcome to do so. And then after I finish meeting everyone who requests a personal meeting, I will be heading back to the greater Chicago area. In this beautiful weather, I believe it is still raining. Sawan, life-breaking rain. May the love and the grace of our beloved, perfect living master always and forever be upon you. Thank you.